What if I told you that isolation really isn't the answer? What if I told you that isolation is somewhat a plan of the enemy to put you deeper into despair? Welcome to the Black Man Black Health Podcast. I'm your host, Drew Cost, and we're going to talk about isolation, how the culture sees it, how I believe we should see it, and how God sees it. So I was doing my morning stuff, getting ready for the day, and I had came across this video by Jordan Peterson. I'm actually learning to love Jordan Peterson. At first, his content was it just seemed different, which is okay. It seemed different, but I've learned to love how he explains things, and I love how he talks. So he said this quote, and it struck me to make this episode. He says, "When life hits hard, one of the most dangerous traps you can fall into is isolation. Pain has a way of making people withdraw. It convinces them that no one will understand, that no one cares, and that their struggles are theirs alone to bear. Isolation is not protection, it's a slow descent into despair. At first, you think it's well, but you think it's well because you avoid explaining yourself, judgment, and you convince yourself that you are protecting your dignity." My God. Okay, so let's look at how the culture usually sees it or what we usually hear. We always hear, I gotta isolate to go and build myself up or something like that. And we usually hear this in church too. And now usually in the Christian faith that, when separation means growth or isolation means growth. That I think we see stuff and we make it like law. I don't believe that's true. I believe human beings are wired for connection and for community. That's actually how people grow the best. So, not knocking anybody who wants to live off grid or anything like that. That's not what I'm doing. I'm just showing something that I realized. For me, I had a real bad habit, and sometimes it comes back. So I'm still working on it. Where when something happens, I want to isolate. I don't want to be around anybody. I want to go and solve it myself. And that's not good. It's not good because you don't realize how you're not going to arrive at certain answers. And you don't also realize that sometimes you can be digging yourself into despair and always feeling that you got to be coming out of a hole or coming out of a rock. That alone is like, I think, a trauma response to think that's how life is supposed to be. Yes, you're going to get challenged. Yes, you're going to go through things. We understand that, but we should not be thinking that every single day needs to be a fight and every single day needs to be a fight alone. I think that's where we get it wrong. But he said the one of the most dangerous traps you can fall into is isolation. If you know anything about traps, good traps usually aren't usually like noticeable. They're usually subtle. They're usually not fast. Like they're not just sitting there like a big hole with a caution sign. It's usually not that. But isolation feels good at times. Why? Because you don't have to explain yourself. You can just literally be doing what you're doing, be in your own cave, and no one knows. You don't have to protect anything. You can be quote unquote you, but it's not healthy. It's not healthy. It's not healthy because we're made for community. We're made for being with each other. We're made for sharing. And we all know when you share and when you're with people, things can get messy. When you share and you open your heart, things could get ugly. Becoming vulnerable isn't as easy as people make it seem, but it's worth it. It's necessary. And it's something if you want to keep growing and living in life at your fullest, I believe you have to do. Now, Viktor Frankl made this statement, and he said, "Between stimulus and response, there's a space, and in that space lies the power to choose." So let me say it again so it makes sense. Between stimulus and response, there's a space, and in that space lies the power for you to choose. The moment you stop resisting reality and begin responding to it, it's where transformation happens. Usually, we isolate because something happened, we're not accepting what happened, and we try to go straight into um go straight into like isolation mode. Like there's a space between like stimulus and response. Stimulus is this happened, responses. This is how I'm going to respond. We usually try to skip the space and go straight to responding, which is usually isolation. Some people may call it a knee jerk reaction or always being reactive. That's what usually happens with isolation. We see this throughout mankind, throughout our lifetime. We've always seen it. Now, the thing that he said that helped me and made me want to make this episode is pain has a way of making people withdraw. Trauma has a way of making people withdraw, especially men. Like I get hurt, I'm withdrawing. I don't need nobody else. I don't need anything. I'm good. Right? It's an old movie. You can date me for this one. Get Rich or Die Trying. When 50 Cent he got shot, and he's staying like kind of off the grid with his girlfriend and some of his friends, and he's off grid, and he has a teether in his mouth because he got shot in his mouth, and they're saying something to him, and he was like, I don't need nobody else. I don't need nobody. He's not really saying I don't need anybody. He's really saying that this pain right now is something that I'm not confronting. It's not something that I'm accepting as a reality. Yes, you cannot change what happened to you, but you can take a responsibility of what's going to happen next. So in that movie, right, he says that, and then he ends up healing. He depends on his friends to help, and he becomes a superstar. I want to share with you guys that isolation is also a plan of the enemy. If I can isolate you, I can destroy you. If I can isolate somebody when they're dealing with pain, you don't realize that you're not going to probably think to really fight. You're going to be thinking about like almost why did this happen to me instead of accepting it. And that's very dangerous. Right? It's hard to beat somebody who has a community. It's hard to beat somebody who's active in the community emotionally, not just being there doing the work, but there emotionally as well. And I believe strongly that we have an opportunity to make our communities stronger by allowing people to be vulnerable and to be emotional. Hey, how did you deal with losing your job? How did you deal with losing your mom? How did you deal with losing the baby? No, we're not becoming therapists, but we want people to know that you don't need to isolate. Isolation is dangerous. Now, the reason why I believe we've always praised isolation is because we look at those people as being really strong and admirable. We look at those people as being like superheroes. But if you know anything about superheroes, they have a lot of issues. And they actually do better when they start teaming up with other superheroes, right? We've seen this. I'm not going to go into that because that's not what this episode is about. We need community. Isolation is not the thing you want to be going towards. Marcus Aurelius said this statement: while we have no control over external events, we have absolute control over our inner world. That's real peace, where my inner world is so fortified and solidified that whatever happens externally doesn't mean it doesn't bother me, but it doesn't shake up my whole entire world every time. Yes, there will be things that hit you hard that will shake you up, but not every single issue should be shaking you up completely at the core. That's working on your peace. That's embodying peace, not the peace that we see now, which is really like some false setup. Like if you always got to protect your peace, you probably don't have it. If you have to always make sure you don't get around a certain person, or you may bump into a certain person because they're gonna kill your peace, then that's not peace. That's you micromanaging people. It's you micromanaging the things that's around you. Peace means I embody this. This is who I've become. I've become the person, or becoming the person that when things happen, I go first into God. How do you want me to see this? Secondly, what's in my control? Not what's in the control of the world, not what's in control of the next person who's going to try to like do something to me. It's more so, what do I see now? How does God want me to see this, and what's in my control? So I want to leave you with this today. When you feel like you should isolate, and it happened to me this week. I wanted to go isolate. I wanted to go shut down. When you feel like you need to isolate, remember, between the stimulus and the response, there is a space. Ask yourself, Or tell yourself, I should accept the reality that just happened. This happened. I can't change that. I can change what happens next. What happens next does not need to be me going to isolate and get away from the world forever because it's dangerous. What may need to happen is I accept that this happened and I'm going to make some decision that's going to rectify or grow or learn from it. Be great, guys. I'm out of here.